Throughout this series, we've profiled a wide range of shows that vary in tenor and quality. But there are very few shows whose tenor and quality have been inexorably altered by the passage of time the way that the OC has. While on its surface, this is a soap opera that led to a new standard in teen network programming, watching this show now is a window into the anxieties of a certain type of American during the Bush years, and is in some ways a prophecy of things that were to come. It would be correct to say that the show is a teen melodrama that doesn't take itself outrageously seriously, and that its content is often frivolous and bordering on self-parody. That said, I felt an undercurrent of sadness throughout each season and episode. That may be a result of watching this now as opposed to when it was on and knowing what was to come, but I think if you do the same, you may feel it too. There's a constant humming bad feeling in Ryan's brooding, in Seth's soy banter, an emptiness and a grief that permeates it. I think this is one of those shows that has so much purchase with audiences that we'd be almost wasting time to introduce it anymore, so let's get into it.
California, here we come. California.
So I wish we had done this show right after we did Gossip Girl, because
They
it's
are
a
in
very
conversation with each other. This is really the thing. This is like the germ. This is the ground that Gossip Girl sprang out of.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think their tenor betrays like the class that they're about, right? Because Gossip Girl, like the tone of Gossip Girl is like these children doing sociopathic things to each other, and then it's all okay because they're the ruling class, and that's just like what the ruling class does. Mm-hmm. Gossip Girl isn't, there's nothing like dour about it. It's like, no, hey, we're going to be here no matter what.
It's the unrestrained id of America's capitalist overlords.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's where the big evil gets done. So these people are big evil, whereas these SoCal people are, in a respect, kind of small timers.
No, yeah, and this is a show about small time. It's about upper class small timers versus big timers.
Yeah, the big dogs of the Gossip Girl universe.
The big dogs of Gossip Girl, like they will ruin each other's lives, and then like that's how you let somebody into their world. That's how they let Dan Humphries in. They're like, "Oh, you're as big of a piece of shit as we are. Yep. Welcome aboard." But with this show, it's like I am curious to see, I felt like, again, this is probably a result of watching this now, but to me, this show is like, hey, these are people who like just barely got into the upper class, and there's this undercurrent of decline and sadness and like death, kind of.
Yeah.
They're not going to make it.
Yeah.
They're not going to, like, one thing I thought was fascinating about the show is how much of it takes place in like spec houses.
Yeah,
like,
it's very it's amazing because like this was clearly the inspiration for Gossip Girl. I mean, at least in terms of its, I know that was written based on books, but I mean, in terms of its tone and everything, its genre, it's hard to imagine Gossip Girl happening without the OC setting the template. But
yes.
But everything about Gossip Girl is intentionally and very self-consciously glamorous. The beautiful apartments, overstuffed, like Upper West Side places and glamorous bars. Everything is very, very high end, and everyone is dressed immaculately at all times. It's all these people like sitting at these fucking places that look like cheesecake factories wearing flip-flops and cargo shorts.
There's repeated jokes about how Ryan, who's definitely the protagonist of the show, only wears wife beaters.
Yeah.
Like this is about strivers, and it's a lot of the characters, they're not as rich as you think they are. There's only one guy in Gossip Girl who's like the bad dad who blew all his money, and that's the captain. But like everyone on the OC seems to be like teetering on the edge,
or it's like they're not there. It's like with Sandy and what's her name? Like that's all her dad's. That's her dad's empire.
Yes.
That there's no one has any like sense of ownership over it. Everyone's just borrowing somebody else's name for like a name for the co-signing role on like a mortgage or something. Everybody's being co-signed for.
Yeah, Sandy and Kirsten just live on her father's largesses. Sandy just barely works. Sandy works so little that he the show starts because he meets a handsome boy on the one of the 2 days a week he works, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to be my son?"
Yeah, because the idea is that he's supposed to be this soft-hearted do-gooder who feels guilty about living in luxury out in the OC, and so he goes to minister to the youth working for juvenile offenders. And the first wide-eyed white boy he sees, he's like, "You're my son now." It's hard to believe he was doing too much of that shit. It's almost like he's like how Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. It's like her first day as a prostitute. This is my first day going down to the county jail to help out the indigent. Will you come home with me?
Yeah, literally the first white child he runs into, he's like,
he reminds me of me.
Yeah. And so another thing, there's the precarity, there's the total disconnect from any source of their money. And the other thing, so Gossip Girl is about insider versus outsider, and it's everyone wants to be a part of this thing that can fully articulate, because those are the last people in America who have any sense of an articulatable community, are the elite.
Yeah.
Because it's we have Bohemian Grove.
Yeah.
We have the Bilderbergs.
We have some sort of fancy cotillion every episode. There's some sort of party or event literally every episode. They see each other every day with a glass of Chardonnay in their hands.
And this show is this show's fascinating to me because it's all these upper class people who are no, I'm not a part of this stupid world. Yep. And it's dude, you are. Yeah. You're here. Someone has to live in the OC, and you're doing
That's
it.
The beautiful thing. That's the very observant and truthful part of it, is just the instinct towards self-exculpation. Because everyone knows, but nobody wants to be responsible.
No, right. They all know this is absurd. There's a cotillion in the first few episodes, and the character Marissa Cooper she fills the Serena van der Woodsen role. But even that, Serena van der Woodsen is she's definitely limited by Blake Lively's abilities as an actress. But I think Misha Barton does a really good job with what Marissa Cooper is, because she's an amazing character because there's nothing to her, really. She's just this beautiful, fucked up object.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, from the moment you see her, just destined for death.
Yeah. And
this is just going to be the character that bad things happen to.
She's cursed. She's got the big doe eye. She's a Victorian match girl, a class or a stereotype of a Victorian, kept woman who is just she's been defeated before we even meet her.
Yes. Yeah. Compare with Serena, who's no, Serena does that to people.
Yes, Serena's the queen bitch. She's not getting cheated on by some fucking musclehead and then having no repercussions for it. She's she's taking charge.
No, that's why her and Dan really fall in love, because they're oh, we both have the taste for destroying people's lives. Misha and Ryan are both they're both destined for each other in a way, because it's oh, these are just they're both refuse of the world in different ways. Ryan is a kid that someone shouldn't have had. He's here in the OC through an accident. He keeps trying to leave. He can never properly leave. Misha is the daughter of this shitty striver woman who's ashamed of coming from a place like Ryan did, and this rich kid fuck up who loses all his money every episode in Jimmy.
Just it's just a fucking big-headed Irish Gil from The Simpsons.
We're gonna get into that character a bit. He's my favorite type of character, but and it's yeah, of course her parents aren't gonna give a shit. Her parents don't give a shit at all. They're all the dad is investigated by a different federal agency every week for doing a Ponzi scheme
at our fondue party. Oh, darn it!
Yeah. And her mom, her mom only sees her as oh shit, I thought I was getting on the gravy train, but this is the end of this type of upper class. This is all on credit. You have to marry a rich guy.
Yes.
She's just sees Marissa as the continuation of her ambitions and anxiety. She never had a fucking chance.
No.
It's and I think it's very notable that Ryan Marissa dies. She's hit by they never actually get to end up together.
No.
There was a lot of on again, off again. And it's not it's like they do get to be together in a vacuum, but it's like, no, they're both too fucked up to make this work.
Yeah. No,
this can't work.
Everything is broken. Yeah. It is fitting because it's California and not New York, because it's like the end of the empire. It's like every time you look out at the ocean, you know that America has a fucking has a time limit it's got a death date. Whereas you can be Eustace Tilley in Manhattan and imagine that your rule will never end.
Yeah, New York or California, especially California now, especially Southern California now, is like, that is the red mold on the fresh mozzarella you kept in the fridge too long.
Yes.
It was not supposed to go on like this. New York is, I guess, halloumi or one of those cheeses that lasts forever because you can put it on anything. But yeah, no, so as a show, I really, really enjoyed this. Mm-hmm. I really thought it was great. So for shows that we're familiar with, I'll usually watch like a couple hours of them. You know, if I've seen them before, it's like, you know, you're reacquainting yourself. For shows that we haven't seen, like Dallas, it's kind of a chore sometimes, right? Yeah. Like this is still a very easy job, and I feel silly complaining about it, but it's like, yeah, watching 20 episodes of Dallas, really, like, you're really eating flour there. Yeah. But this is like, I had to be like, okay, that's enough OC for today.
I've had enough.
Yeah.
Simply Divide.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's a great show, like in a way that Gossip Girl is a great show, because they're both aware of what they are. Yeah. Gossip Girl is like this NWO woman who wrote it.
Constance Vander Hooten or whatever the fuck. Somebody who has in her basement like a receipt for slaves from her great grandfather signed by Peter Stuyvesant.
Yeah. It's self-aware because it's like, hey, here's all the fucked up shit we do to each other. And this show is great because it's Schwartz, the guy who wrote it, it's like, hey, this is how like vacant and bad and tragic like Southern California is. Like you're sort of buttressed by this, you know, the way in which rich people are broke, this sort of empty credit. You like live just sort of like a pointless hedonistic life and then you fucking die. Yep. It reminded me a lot of do you remember what John Dolan wrote after Michael Hastings died?
Not off the top of my head.
Well, he said something very interesting in it, and he was like, well, I don't know if he was killed by like John Brennan or not, but I do know that in California, like that's what you do if you're cool. You just like you live a fast life. You like die because you drove your car into a fucking median when you were fucked up.
Paul
and
Walker,
it's like,
baby.
Yeah, and it's like his perspective on that. Like Dolan's perspective was like, well, I'm from California, but I wasn't cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just, like, a nerd, and I'm just gonna die, like, in a bed. But, like, that's what... Yeah, no, Paul Walker...
James Dean. Guy Young, leave a good-looking corpse. You gotta do it.
And it's, like, I think... I wonder if there's anything written about this, about, like, the psychology of being, at the Earth's end of this empire.
Yeah.
And just thinking, like... No, this will all end.
Yep.
I see its end. This state is on fire all the time.
I mean, I remember watching The Critic in 1996 or something, and they would do instead of a couch gag, they would have a different radio news announcement every time Jay got woken up by his alarm, and I remember it being the state of California has officially changed its name to the state of emergency.
Yeah, it's been like that for a pretty long time, and it is, I mean, all of California's natural problems are sort of a consequence to, you know, things we do everywhere in this country, but California is especially fragile to it. The constant forest fires, just the awful air condition, and then there are, you know, other man-made horrors, like the constant, just the most... open human misery I've ever seen has been in California. Just seas of like homeless and hopeless people.
Yeah.
And it just treated as like it's treated like a mosquito infestation by the people who live there.
It's like, the hobo level is 6 today. like it's smog or something.
It is like it's the logical endpoint of an empire, a sort of manifest destiny based empire that doesn't fundamentally value human life or nature or anything.
And it's telling you that with its lived environment every day. Like we are going to turn all of this natural beauty into tract houses, even though it increases the risk that they're all going to burn down. Hey, that's tomorrow's problem. And if I'm the developer, I don't have to worry about that. Better make sure you have fire insurance, motherfuckers. I'm out of here.
Of course, no one cares about Marissa Cooper because none of these people give a shit about their kids.
Anything.
No. And I mean, of course, if you were a child of wealth or any even type of moderate privilege in California, why wouldn't you just live a fast life and kill yourself with a car?
Yeah. It's more dignified in a way than allowing yourself to become like an old hedonist, which California has plenty of, and who are universally just sad and you see every day, and you don't want to be that.
So so this show is it's serialized in a weird way. So for those who aren't familiar, which I assume is very few people, because what I've been posting about this, so many people I did not know watched the OC. You're a little young, but when it came out, it was one of those shows. One of those shows that occupied the cultural space. If I had gotten laid at all in high school, I would have seen
100%. Yes, you would have been forced to watch it with a chick, no question.
Yeah. Instead, I watched like cam rips of The Aviator and shit alone. But so yeah, this is about the protagonist of the show, Ryan, played by a guy who actually didn't go on to do a lot of things.
No, Ryan McKenzie just like fell off Ben McKenzie just fell off the damn planet. Although he is cartoonishly handsome, I will say that.
He's a very good-looking guy. He looks weirdly like Russian.
He does.
I thought.
He was on a show about the LAPD actually on TNT a couple years ago called Southland, and then it got canceled. And I think I don't know if he's been anything like. He kind of reminds me of like a Casper Van Dien type. Like a cartoon handsome guy who just can't make it in movies because it's sort of like a parody.
Yeah, he's not like... I think he was perfect for this role because he is playing sort of like a cartoonish character. Yes. Like he's playing like a cartoonishly troubled boy.
And his eyes, he's like an anime guy. It's like they basically take him in because his big puppy dog eyes are too big for Sandy Cohen not to bring him into the house.
Yeah.
And then his wife is like, get these criminal out of my house. And then he just looks at her and she's like, all right.
Yeah, how can I say no? Yeah. So yeah, he gets adopted by Sandy Cohen, this sort of outsider Jewish lawyer played by Peter Gallagher, who's married up in the OC.
Big time. By the way, I was wondering, do you feel are you in any way offended by the single full on Jewish character in the show being played by the single most Irish man in human history?
It's a choice. I kept looking at him being like Sandy Cohen.
Yeah.
That's
they might as well have hired fucking Gabriel Byrne.
Yeah.
And Sandy Cohen.
Yeah. They should have, and had Seth played by McNulty.
Yes.
Yeah. It was, it's a choice. I mean, his wife looks more Jewish.
Yeah, certainly.
Kelly Rowan looks way more Jewish than him. Yeah. But, so he's like, all right, I'm going to adopt you. Because his son needs a friend, because his son's annoying.
Yes. And yes. Oh, at least it'll give something for our pathetic gamer son to do.
Their son, played by Adam Brody.
Even a guy who he found at juvenile hall is a better influence than just gaming all day. Yeah.
So their son, Seth, he's sort of patient zero for soy dialogue, I would say.
Oh, one of the reasons I said we should watch the OC for this is a friend of mine pointed out how this show, obviously Whedon is there too, and we should maybe, I don't know, should we do Buffy? Should we put Buffy in there?
I
don't know. We'll see if we have room. But him and Whedon essentially, this show and Whedon created the modern soy banter, the modern soy protagonist.
Yeah. he is the most annoying character in the entire show. And he is, like, but I would say it uses, like, a classic literary device, the Jew in fiction that we've referenced previously, in that there's nothing on his outward appearance that would suggest he's an outsider, but his knowledge that he is an outsider drives him insane.
Yep.
And usually, like in classic European fiction, it's like the guy does something terrible, like he kills somebody or something, or he just like develops madness. Mm-hmm. But in this case, it's, you know, he does soy bands.
He does soy
and
bands.
Annoys everyone.
As a way to, he games and he does cutting satire and sarcasm to alleviate his discomfort. I wonder why that's a familiar character now. I wonder why that guy resonates.
Yeah. So throughout the show, like, Ryan sort of teaches him how to not be as annoying. Yeah. He gets, you know, they both sort of come of age in the OC. Ryan has, aforementioned on-again, off-again relationship with Marissa Cooper, the sort of troubled it girl. Seth goes through a bunch of, like, you know, Rachel Bilson and Rachel Bilson clones.
Yeah. You can't get enough of the Bilson.
Yeah. And, you know, like, this is a very soapy show.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's, like, a weird amount of, like, people getting shot to death, like, disappearances and stuff like that. Like, the storylines are very soapy, where it's like, looks like Sandy is going to take control of Kirsten's dad's housing company.
Yep.
You know, like the sort of Dallas-esque corporate intrigue. And it you know, it sort of ends with, yeah, Marissa dies. Ryan, like, struggles to find himself. Seth, like, realizes he's in love with, like, one of the Rachel Bilson clones. They leave the OC and reflect on the lessons they learned. But it is, my reading of this, like, if you go beyond, like, sort of the serialized and then season-long sort of soapy storylines, is, like, there is this deep undercurrent of sadness.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, this is, like, you're telling me that if these people's real-world equivalents didn't just get wiped out by the subprime crisis.
Yeah. Oh, God. All your little tract homes just nuked.
Mm-hmm. They, like, the best thing that could happen to them is that all the tract homes get destroyed by wildfire.
Yeah,
and they
something that they're insured for. Anything that they can get a check out of.
Yeah. Are you telling me, like, Seth and Ryan have any type of, like, good future as people who are, like, leaving college right as the 08 collapse starts?
And, I mean, considering all of the grit and, like, you know, social the grit and vision and, like, you know, plan that they all developed over the course of the show, just literally dicking around at barbecues for 4 seasons.
Yeah, getting into fights behind crab shacks and shit. And I mean, Ryan, like, held the dying love of his life in his arms and, like, confronted the guy who killed her, but couldn't bring, like, he's ruined for like, he's, when he was, like, 17, like, you're just fucked up forever after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really, like, the characters are very, like, you know, soap stock in a way that there's you know, Sandy Cohen, there's the doe-eyed kid from the streets and Ryan, there's the soy band's comic relief and Seth, but my breakout character, the guy I like the most, Jimmy Cooper.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. Just give another it'll be fine. He just needs a couple of weeks.
That is my favorite character in like sort of teen melodrama is, like, the girl's dad, or, like, the it girl or it boy's dad, who's like, okay, if you see these guys in FBI windbreakers come near the house, they're actually I didn't want to, like, upset you, but we're filming a movie at this house, and they're going to pretend to arrest me tomorrow.
No, it's fine. They're hot FBI agents I hired for a bachelorette party. I'm coordinating. It's fine.
I'm gay. I'm not out of money. I haven't been running a Ponzi scheme, actually. Hey, just so you know, I love you. I'm still a very successful businessman, but can I have like $700? I forgot where my bank is.
Yeah,
I'm still really
I forgot my PIN
rich.
number.
Yeah. Can I sold your car to get you a better one as a surprise. Oh, whoops! I just blew the surprise. Sorry. Like that is the funniest. Like if they, so they're rebooting this. I would like to play Jimmy Cooper.
I think you would be wonderful. It's just you have perfected, I think, the liar guy, and you could finally bring it to the big screen or the small screen.
That is
the small big screen.
The best character in the world. Just his daughter is like ODing every week, and he's like, jeez.
Oh boy. Criminy.
There is like a really funny Jimmy Cooper scene in season 1 where he's at this fast food place with this guy who's investing money with him, and they turn down his card, and he's like just goes through all this guilt shit, and he's gonna be like he's like I forgot to activate it, and then like thankfully the guy's daughter comes in and is like, Dad, you have to come like see if this prom dress is right for me or whatever. And he's like, oh my God, thank fucking God. And like scrounges together pennies to pay for his like number 6.
Yeah.
And then later they have this like idiotic casino night that's like a fundraiser for some stupid cause.
They love doing that.
And the dad he was just with like beats the shit out of him.
Yeah,
because
in public because he ripped him off.
Yeah. And when he's like, oh, geez, after like talking to Sandy Cohen, he's like, I ruined the fanciest night of the year. The casino night. I ruined it. It's like, he's such a great, pathetic character, but that also, like, the world is so stupid. Like, that would, like, the people of Gossip Girl like make fun of the people of the OC, like, oh, what's the fanciest night you guys have in Southern California? The casino night that raises money for Kiwanis Club.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's really cute. Yeah, me and Beyonce ate a human heart together underneath Delmonico's the other night.
Yeah. Oh, Marissa, you have to take some time away because you drank too much Michelob. Oh, I killed a guy and I went to boarding school in Europe. My dad is like Dutch Robert Maxwell. But yeah, no, I was very gripped throughout all of it. It's weird because it's like not a whole lot happens in this show.
No.
And as part of that sort of feeling of foreboding and collapse, it's like you kind of feel like what's going to happen. Like some people aren't going to make it, but this is really about Seth and Ryan having their journey. Any trouble that Sandy and Kirsten have, they'll find their way again.
Yeah, because another thing about Jimmy that marks him as a huge loser is when I started watching the first season, and it's like, and Kirsten loans him $100,000 without telling Sandy, and you find out that they're high school sweethearts. I was like, oh, they're gonna have an affair. Nope, never gets any.
No, he's the
like,
biggest
she essentially
fucking loser.
Just feels guilty for him. Like she sure feels nice for him. It's like she has feelings for him, but they're not even romantic. Basically, feelings. He's just says it's like, oh, I remember when I like jacked that guy off behind the dance. I don't want to see him get punched in front of the baccarat table. Night.
Yeah, that's like it's like, and that causes a fight between Sandy and Kirsten. But it's like, okay, imagine for your wife to give a guy $100,000 and for you not to like really come close to getting divorced over it is like, that guy has to be such a fucking loser.
Yep.
Because if it was anyone else, you'd be like, oh, they're fucking.
Yep.
Like, this is over. Like, but because it's like the guy who just got his ass kicked by another 51-year-old at casino night, you're like, yeah, that guy's not fucking my wife or anyone.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I'll represent you.
Yeah, he literally represents him because he feels bad for him.
He can't even generate jealousy. That's how sad Jimmy is.
Jimmy causes about an episode and a half of jealousy.
Yep.
That's about all he's worth in this world.
Yep. And eventually he realizes, I have to leave. I have to literally sail away on a boat
Yeah.
Because the fish don't know that I'm a loser.
What a great character.
Yeah.
What a great character type.
Yeah.
I like
those are always
everyone.
the most, they're so good because so much of the show is about people just living frictionless lives of privilege that seeing guys just like dog paddling while everybody else is just doing, breaststrokes is just so enjoyable and entertaining.
Absolutely. And it's like there are clear analogs to every character in the show. Like, his analog in Gossip Girl is Nate Stat, the captain.
Yes.
And it's like, well, he has the same problem. Like, he loses all his money and shit, but it's like he does it like a rich psycho where he's like not really broke. He's broke in the way that like Donald Trump goes broke,
exactly.
where it's like
he's not like living he's not living in a fucking a studio apartment eating stew like Kurt Van Houten.
Yeah, he doesn't really feel bad about it either.
That's the other thing. That's what really marks you as a king is when you are a desperate Madoff type, but you're too much of a psycho to even be aware that you're like fraud in any way like dishonest or cheating. You're just doing it. Whereas poor Jimmy, he's like, just give me a few more weeks. It'll turn around.
Nate's dad, like, he eventually like comes to Jesus because they have to do this in all shows, but it's like he's also a cokehead and like plants his own coke on his son.
Yeah, Jimmy would plant the coke on himself.
Yeah. He would take Marissa's coke and be like, "Well, I'm already going to jail for running 8 Ponzi schemes.
Yeah, I might as well throw another charge like Weebay. Give me another slice of chicken fettuccine California Pizza Kitchen, and I'll confess to any number of drug possessions."
Yeah, and so Ryan is clearly our Dan Humphrey. Again, Dan Humphrey is like he comes from just upper middle class, not fully upper class, but it's like he shows the upper class people that he's a big enough psycho to live in their world. Mm-hmm. Ryan, what does Ryan get?
I mean, he gets a roof over his head for a while. Like that's the thing is that he gets to avoid total misery, but the cost is never feeling like he's part of it.
Marissa, unlike Serena, just fucking dies. Has a tragic life and dies.
Yep. She was cursed from birth. Like she was broken by expectations and what was around her before you even see her first. Purely doomed character. Which that notion doesn't exist in the Gossip Girl universe because they can remake reality at will.
They can buy their way out of any problem. Yeah. What is, like, with the hands of fate and death, what is Jimmy Cooper going to do?
He's going to get on a boat. He's going to blow it up like Rory Bellows.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Cooper, like Serena's dad probably traded his daughter's like assured doom for Marissa's. Mm-hmm. He's like, "Can you just take the life of someone in California?" And the god of death at Bohemian Grove was like, "Yeah, no problem, Mr. Vanderwoodson."
Yep. Yes, balancing the scales.
Yeah. But yeah, I love this show. But I was thinking a lot about its continuation because like this is one of the biggest genres on network TV now, right?
Yeah.
Is sort of like the teen melodrama.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen a ton of them. I know that people love Riverdale. They love a lot of shows like that. And I am curious to watch them after this because it's like I think that like there's a weird we've talked about it before, like the perfect level of self-awareness that exists in good shows. Right. In shows that are ridiculous, they should have a exact right level of self-awareness where it's not like, American Horror Story, but it is like they realize this is a dumb show. From what I've seen of Riverdale, it's like aware that it's stupid to do like dark Archie. Yeah.
A literal joke from Twitter from like 5 years ago from our friend Everett. I remember the Dark Archie tweet, and then it came true like 2 years later.
But I'm thinking of other shows. Like, do you know of 13 Reasons Why?
I've heard of it. Yes, the Netflix show that apparently they released it, and people went from going, oh, I'm glad that there's a frank discussion of teen suicide to, oh my God, this show's going to make all the kids top themselves like it's the Sorrows of Young Werther.
Yeah, well, so that's the other thing that's weird about it is I don't really feel like when this show is out, teens were watching it. I don't really feel like teens watch teen drama now.
I don't think teens watch TV.
No, they don't.
Teens watch fucking people getting killed with like suffocated laundry bags on TikTok. I don't think they're actually watching television at all. Like, it's not that nobody's watching TV, but I don't think younger people watch it.
So that's the weird thing, and that's why, like, it's not that there won't be another show like the OC, but it's like it will be tonally different because like these shows are now made for like emotionally stunted 28-year-olds. Like this is like the people who watch these shows are like, yeah, people who like professionally review these shows, or like, yeah, people who are trapped in their adolescence forever. Which is weird because I feel like OC also, that's another thing it's about. It is about being trapped in your adolescence forever.
Yes. Absolutely, yeah. Like these are all just overgrown children who've just been like surfing and going to parties basically their whole lives and have been driven insane by it without even knowing it.
Yeah, but the thing I think is weird, and I've watched like a lot of like shitty modern TV for like my previous series. There's no indication of like American decline in it. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's not weird. Like, of course there isn't, but it's weird that it's in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not anything. Yeah.
Especially when it came out too, which was in an era when there was like right after 9/11, when it was sort of like a collective denial of anything other than like American, like anything other than American triumphalism was some sort of unpatriotic act, regardless of where you were on the political spectrum.
This show came out in 2003.
Yeah.
And that was, when Michael Moore got fucking booed at the Oscars for being against the Iraq war invasion. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When, like, Craig Mazin was writing, like, shitty blog posts about how, like, it's unpatriotic not to support the war. Yeah. Like, it was... And I think that escaped a lot of people. I mean... Obviously, I don't think that Josh Schwartz exactly knew that the subprime crisis was going to happen, but I think as like a Southern Californian with a little bit of awareness of this world, is like, even if you can't fully articulate it or you don't have the exact education,
you know that there's a fucking time limit on all this stuff. You know that this is all built on literal sand.
Yeah, you gotta pay the piper someday, and I don't know, like Riverdale, I don't think anyone's looking for that in that, but it's I think about like melodramas. Mm-hmm. I would put this in the category of melodrama. Like I think about This Is Us a lot.
Yes, that's what literally that show broke your brain and made you decide that you were going to decode America through its hour-long dramatic output.
What's so amazing about these shows is that they're like these like cartoonishly intense melodramas about American life with like tons of bad things happening to them, but it's like I get distracted watching them because of the psychotic optimism of it.
Yeah,
it's like, no, everyone has an eating disorder and is going to kill themselves and has cancer and like had some like other traumatic event, but like like we're going to use this to address like every issue of the week, but like, hey, everything's going to work out. And that's, of course, because of those shows are like, you know, telling regular Americans like, hey, you don't deserve health care. Yep. Why don't you fucking get your act together? But it is like, I am interested to see when TV comes back, if there's going to be any indication in these shows about American decline. Mm-hmm. Because I think like your average person is way more aware of the decline than, you know, when the OC was on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like that's what's going to be interesting about the reboot is that it's like you're doing this show on the other end of that entire ecosystem already cratering once and then being rebuilt on even more rickety ground. Like it's even more tenuous than it is. Like it's back, of course, like all those fortunes have been remade, some by the same people, some by different people, and it's all based on the same thing that we know for a fact will collapse.
Yeah, and I've got to imagine there's not going to be a lot of that in that. I think one of the things you can point to is the degeneration of the TV writer themselves.
Yes.
Like, something horrible that's happened is, like, TV writers now are stars within media and to regular media consumers.
Yep.
Thanks to the internet. And, yeah, like Craig Mazin or David Chase or whatever fucking stupid asshole Ken Olin can get online, and they're all sort of warped in this same, like, liberal, like, weird liberal communication space where they're all like sniffing the Biden ether.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hey guys, we've seen some tough times, but we're coming back.
Yeah. Well, they have made it. They believe, because how could they not, given where they are in life, that everything basically works out, that the system is stable and worth supporting, and that it is actually like irresponsible of them as citizens to make Americans like have any question about the fundamental solidity of any of our institutions. Because if that happens, then people are going to get disillusioned and join QAnon. And we can't have that. We have to have everybody clapping at maximum intensity at all times. Like we're at a fucking Politburo meeting in 1937.
And it's right. It's so that is so. Hold on one second. That is so conspicuous because, okay, when you think about like Chernobyl and how lauded it was, like the show is ridiculous. Like, literally, like, they'll have a meeting and be like, all right, comrade, let's not acknowledge the nuclear disaster so the maximum amount of people die because that's the tenet of communism. And then, and it's like, they're like, oh, no, this is an allegory for global warming.
Yeah.
And it's like, this could be an allegory for anything in America. Like, your most like, crank-brained Russiaologist, or now China watcher take on like what makes these systems bad is quintuply true about America now.
Yeah.
I mean, the only time there's any like type of pessimism on screen is during like sort of an issue of the week thing. But even then it's solved because everything on TV has to be solved.
If the very least, even if it's not narratively solved, a solution is proffered, and it is something, and it's just out of the liberal toolbook of compassion and understanding and basically changing your attitude towards a structure that cannot be violated.
So having said all that, what do you think this reboot's going to look like?
I mean, is it gonna? I don't know enough about it. Is it the same producers? Is it the same creator, or is it a whole new group of people? Let me look it up.
I think Josh Schwartz is involved. Let me make sure exactly.
Apparently, Josh Schwartz is not involved, or is it it got shot down? It got shut down.
Oh, thank God!
It doesn't look like there hasn't been much news about it.
Well, good, because like any attempt to reboot it would probably like, I mean, I think I know what it was going to look like. Like there would be like a Black Lives Matter episode.
Yep.
There'd be a Me Too episode. Yep. There would be like an episode where like Sandy gets Ryan to vote for the first time.
Yep, absolutely. Oh God. Oh boy. No. They're not all the same. They're not all crooks. Some things you have to believe in, like the Democratic Party.
Like Ryan's mom meets Joe Biden.
Yes.
And she like gets sober.
Yeah. And then, yes. And it will all be happening in a background of this totally fraudulent, grotesque wealth that is built on, a state that's on fire with very little interrogation of that part of it. Everything that's taken for granted. Then we just get like anxiety issue of the week. Or we would. I would getting mad at a show that doesn't exist.
Yeah. We're doing the thing everyone else does. But I would like to see Josh Schwartz do another thing about California like now, though.
Yeah, like people just having to hop from vacation home to from vacation home to vacation home as they all catch fire.
Yeah. So I guess that's the thing I'm left with after having watched this and thinking about now. And it's a dimension of TV that I hadn't quite realized. I guess the question isn't like, can there be another OC? Because there are new OCs all the time and shows like them. But what would it take for the tone of pessimism to come back to like American fiction that's of this level and of this appeal?
I think it's been replaced by, as you say, like that ennui that suffused the OC has now been turned into anxiety. Like that was the shift. like the 90s to like the 90s to the teens was like this transition with the 9/11 and everything around it as sort of the catalyst culturally to transitioning from sort of a pent-up ennui around living at the end of history to a constant anxiety at the thought that everything is actually falling apart.
Yeah, and I think, I guess it's different. I guess it's different modes of thinking because, right, the thinking then, around the time the OC was made, if you weren't like, let's go invade Iraq and everywhere, let's occupy everywhere, we're the greatest fucking country, which even like liberal screenwriters were doing. If you didn't think that, you would just be like, I don't feel anything. Like I just like that Southern California thing. I'm just like, I'm just going to do this as long as I can and then die in an interesting way.
Yep. Until I lose interest. Yeah, until this gets too boring, I'll just keep doing it, and then I will either directly kill myself or quote unquote accidentally kill myself.
Right. And now, I mean, if you actually like break down all the dominant political thoughts, we've said this on an episode, but it boils down to like, this isn't fair. Why do I have to be the one left holding the bag? Yeah. Like they said, the empire wouldn't collapse in my lifetime. Yeah.
Like, of course,
OC is like, yeah, of course the empire is collapsing in my lifetime.
Yeah, why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What about why would I be denied that pain?
Whereas everything else is like, no. It's like Homer chasing the pig that leads him
it's
through
still
the
good.
dam. It's still good. We just need to do like this. We just need to get everyone to vote. It's still good. It's still good.
We need to call in instead of calling out, and it'll be good.
Yeah, it's still good. It's still good. Or it's like, This Is Us, where it's like, what are you talking about to decline? Everything's better than ever. Yeah. Everything's on the up and up. Oh, you can't afford insulin? Have you tried loving your disgusting family, you piece of shit that watches this? And so, no. And I think even with people who are aware it's over, there's still like this very personal interrogation of it where it's still like, why is it me, me? Like, this isn't fair. Not like, well, this is the end of something awful. What can we build at the end of it? Yeah. It's always like, why me? And then like just sort of like half-ass generational warfare. Yeah. Like blaming the boomers, like millennials wouldn't have done the same thing or any.
Yeah, it's all about like, They were the ones who were there when the fucking the golden volcano was just erupting, and they were there with their hats picking it off the ground. Anyone in that position would have done the same thing.
Yeah. Again, I got to imagine that the only place that will be able to make things that are about ennui, it's going to be other countries that haven't gone through our exact cycle yet.
Yeah.
It's going to be like it's going to be made in Korea or it's going to be made in China, probably, because that's the next ascendant empire. But
I cannot wait for the Chinese OC.
That'll be great. What's the Chinese equivalent of the OC? Is it like Macau?
I guess. I mean, I know that there's a lot of coastland. I think Macau is probably too chintzy. Like a place where there's some people living in coastal splendor. I don't know enough, but I'm sure there is a place, and they're all Chinese Communist Party members. It
would be a great show. Chinese Gossip Girl.
Oh hell yeah! Among the awful children of the fucking billionaire like elite now, it would be funny. And then like every third episode, one of their parents gets shot for corruption.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of like be sad and be like, they just took my dad away and mailed us a bill for the bullet. I gotta have another martini here.
I have to have another virgin boy egg. But yeah, I think going back to close it out with another thing that John Dolan said, one of the characteristic things about America is its psychotic optimism.
Yep. That's defining cultural characteristic.
When we sort of met the world in our modern form during the First World War, that is something that shocked like French and British officers, was how just deluded American officers are. Mm-hmm. And I think like to the end, we're going to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what's weird is we're going to see a lot of shows that their parts are the exact same as the OC, but we're not going to see it's going to be very rare to see something of that same like pessimistic tenor as the show.
Yeah.
So, as always, look to China.
Yep. Always. That's always the answer. The East is